And here we are again with another video, and this time it's in support of this assignment, which is assignment Unit 27 4.2, Maintaining Computer Systems. And this is upgrading the system, and first we must select and use monitoring tools of our choice to assess the current performance of a computer system. So, that's what we're going to do on this bit. Then, after that, we've got to put some hardware in. We're going to present a video and presentation poster leaflet for this challenge. So, let's get the video made. And we'll start with the traditional way, which is the BIOS of a computer system. So in front of the camera there's a computer screen with nothing on it at the moment, and that's because the computer's not booted up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boot it up, and I'm going to boot it up into the BIOS mode. Now, like most modern systems, this computer does not have the traditional BIOS mode with the blue background and the white writing. What it has is a UEFI. And there it is. It's a very posh graphical user interface, which gives me all the information that traditional BIOS does, but in a much more easy to digest formula. Okay, so what we have here in the top bit are the most important bits I'm going to be looking at the moment, and the first thing I'm going to be looking at is my CPU temperature. So let me just zoom in there. There we are. Now, as you can see, it gives me my CPU voltage, which is 1.325 volts, and that's exactly what I'm expecting, so I've got no worries about that at all. I know that's working properly. And it gives me my motherboard temperature, which is 33 degrees centigrade. Now, that's not worrying to me either, but the thing I'm looking at most of all is this. This is my CPU temperature, and as you can see, it's steadily climbing. It's on 44 degrees centigrade now, and I need to watch it for a little bit and see what it goes up to. If it hits 60 degrees centigrade, that's the point that I'm going to start worrying, because that's a little warm for a CPU to be working at. If it hits 70 degrees centigrade, I definitely need to be doing something, and if it goes any higher than that, then my cooling system is not working, and I need to be looking at my fans and possibly installing a new cooling system. Now, it seems to be plateauing out a little bit now at 45, so let's just, 46, let's just see what it does for a few seconds. Now, it's definitely reaching a plateau, and it's going at 47 degrees centigrade at the moment. While we're doing that then, we're going to look a little bit to the left and see what we've got. Let's zoom in on that if we can. So, here I can see what my motherboard is. My motherboard's reporting back. I know that's working fine, don't need to do anything with that. There's the speed of my motherboard, and there's my memory. I've got 4096 megabytes of DDR3 at 1600 megahertz. Now that 4 megabytes is going to be quite important to me in a while, because I'm going to look at what the operating system is and see if I can upgrade that a little bit. 4 megabytes is an entry-level machine these days. It's quite enough for most applications, but it needs upping a bit if we want to do any high-level graphics work on it. Also tells me what the memory is. It's Corsair. Corsair is a very good make. There are only two makes I use, Corsair and Kingston. So I'm not worried about that at all. Don't need to replace that if 4 megabytes will do for this computer. We've also got some SATA information to the right of that. SATA information is about our hard disks, so I'll have a look at that. Yep, we've got a 2 gigabyte Toshiba in there, and a 2 gigabyte Western Digital, and we've also got a DVD-ROM. We've got a spare port as well. It's empty there, so might be putting something in there later. Going forward a bit. This is my system tuning. Now there's not a lot I can do with my system tuning here. I can have it on normal, or I can have it on power saving. Don't really want it on power saving, it starts switching things off. So we're going to have it on normal. Let's have a look at the CPU temperature and see where it's gone. Well, it's reached 49 degrees centigrade, but it's definitely at a plateau now. 49 degrees centigrade is good. It's well under 60, so I'm happy with that. You pull out a bit. You can see the whole screen. Let's monitor it a little bit further if I want to. I can go into the advanced mode of the UEFI, which gives me all sorts of information and lets me do all sorts of settings. So, yeah, tells me exactly what I've got there, and there's nothing I need to set in there. Look in the bottom right hand corner at my voltages just to make sure everything's what it should be. And I've got 11.8 volts where there should be 12, 5.07 where there should be 5, and 3.36 where there should be 3.3. It's well within tolerance, I'm not going to worry about that at all, everything's fine there. Is the system time and date correct? Yeah, it is the 18th of February and it is about 10 to 8, so yeah, great. Don't need to do anything there. Let's come back a bit. Back to the easy mode. Okay, and we'll save and exit. It'll tell us we've not made any changes. We go OK, and Windows will boot up. And into Windows we go, and on this machine it's Windows 7 Ultimate. Now what we need to know is whether this is a 32 or 64-bit, because remember that 4 megabytes of memory. If this is a 64-bit, I'm going to put a little bit more memory in there. If it's not a 64-bit, I'm not going to bother, because the 32-bit system won't recognise anything greater than 4 megabytes of memory without physical address extensions. There's really no point. So let's log in. I'm still running a trial version of Windows on this one, I've not registered it yet. Someday I might get round to it. So, let's have a look at our system information. Right. We've got Microsoft Windows 7 Ultimate according to this, which is what I was expecting to see. And the system type down there is an x86, and an x86 means it's a 32-bit PC, so we're not going to do anything with that memory. We've got a nice steady Corsair stick in there at 4 megabytes. We could put another one in, but it's pointless. It just wouldn't do anything with it. So, let's just have a look down there. We have a total physical memory here of 2.71 gig and available physical memory of 1.47 gig. Total virtual memory of 5.42 gig. Okay, that's fine. That's it's more than enough to do anything that's needed on here. So we're going to look and see how it's behaving. And here we have a performance monitor. I'm just going to zoom in on this so we can see it a little bit better. Bit of a spike on the CPU there as I open the task manager up. I'll just wait for the graph to go along and see what's going on. We can see from the little dynamic pie chart on the no, it's a bar chart, ignore me. Now we can see from the dynamic bar chart here that the CPU is not working very hard at all. It's going between 0% and 16%, I think is the highest I've seen it so far, so it's not doing a great deal. We're not using much of the memory either. We see from the graph and the bar chart that we're doing what? 2/3 or so. So there's plenty of space in there. Now, what I'll do is I'll open a piece of software. I'll open Firefox. And we'll see what's going on. Well, let's put the memory up a bit. Let's also put the CPU usage up a bit to start with. So 29% there. It's not doing very much at the moment, so it's gone down to 3, 7, 16. You can see that as I've opened software, that's about where I opened Firefox, and you can see we're using about half the memory now, so the usage of the memory has gone up, but still, you know, it's only half the memory, so that 4 megabytes is doing very, very well for us, and I don't think I'm going to have to do anything about it. Let's see what applications we're running. Yep, just Firefox, but we're running a lot of processes in the background. We're going to find out what these are. I know what that is. That's Adobe. That one is to do with the Asus motherboard, as is that one. That is Kaspersky. That's to do with the Asus motherboard, the desktop Windows Manager, and there are a number of things for Firefox here. The HP network communicator here is because I have a wireless HP printer, and that's what it's connecting to. We have a Java update scheduler, Kaspersky again, Microsoft. The Catalyst Control Center is to do with the Asus graphics card. AMD, once again, that's to do with the motherboard. The HD Audio Manager, that's fine. Scan to PC activation, that's to do with the HP printer. That's a Microsoft protocol, another Microsoft protocol, another Microsoft protocol, another Microsoft protocol. Now down here we have Netgear, and that's to do with my wireless network adapter through which I reach the internet, and my wireless printer, of course, and the Windows Update Scheduler. There's nothing on there that's going to worry us. There's nothing I've got to worry about here. So, there's not a lot to do. We're running a few Windows services. Once again, can't see anything on there that I don't know about already. So monitoring that. We could do with getting rid of that, but it's not taking up much space. Not using many resources. So we'll just leave it where it is. And yep, there's nothing on there that's going to bother me. Let's see what the network is doing. Yeah, absolutely nothing, because I'm not doing anything on it at the moment. And just one user. Excellent. Right. So we're going to have a look at our security system, and on this machine I use Kaspersky. Just bring it out a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to update my databases. Now, they were last updated an hour ago, so I shouldn't think there's much to download, but you never know, so we'll see. Connecting to the server. Taking its time connecting to the server. and there is something to download. A few kilobytes. There we go, and in a moment it'll have finished. There we are, we're finished, and now we know we're bang up to the minute secure. So we looked at some of the hardware, we looked at some of the software, and we found that there's really nothing to do. Now let's see if there's any updates here for Firefox. In Firefox, we're on the update screen and we can show the update history, and it's inviting me to update to 58.0.2. Now it last did a security update on January the 29th 2018. 58.0.2 is going to give me more security patches, so we're definitely going to download that update, and there's 5.8 megabytes of it. So we'll let it zoom through, and it's at this point that I might actually zoom the camera around a bit so that it goes through in seconds rather than minutes. Alright, well that's done it. So what we can see here is the way this is set up is to check for updates, but let me choose to install them. So, before I do a Firefox update, I always find out what the update is going to do, because I have known it to break things before now. This I don't think will break anything, but we'll restart Firefox and let's see what we can do with it. So we'll go to YouTube. Now, while we're here, we might as well test the audio system. So let's find something nice and loud, like this.
Now I will tell you what I've done for you. 50,000 tears I cried, screaming, deceiving, and bleeding for you, and you still won't hear me.
Right then, that seems to be working nice and loudly, so yeah, the audio system's fine, so we don't need to do anything with that. Not a lot to do on this machine really, we'll find something. So we'll go to the Windows Action Center now. Ah, 9 important updates are available. Let's see what these 9 important updates are. Security and quality rollup for .NET, security monthly quality rollup for assumedly .NET, security update for Windows 7, update for Windows 7, Windows malicious software removal tool, I don't want that, got Kaspersky for that, security update for Microsoft Visual C++, security update for Microsoft Visual C++, and security update for Microsoft Visual Studio 2008. Well, need those. So, okay. Install updates. And now it will download and install updates. Unfortunately, it will take ages to do so, so what I'll do is I'll switch the camera off. We're still downloading the Windows updates. We're about halfway through, and I've had a nice cup of tea. So while it's doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the actual hardware. Now, I've got a nice little tool here, and it's called HWInfo32. So a 32-bit system, of course, and I'm going to open it. I'm going to open it in summary to start with. Won't let me open it in summary. Hang on, there we are, summary. And what it'll do is it'll examine all the system configuration. And it'll give me, there's an update for it. We'll not do the update just yet. We'll run it again and do the update in a bit. It'll give me lots of information about the hardware on here in summary. Let's have a zoom in. Now, here I can see what my CPU is doing, and it's telling me it's working at 3,700 megahertz, and the North Bridge 1600.0 megahertz. And what's going on there? Yep, everything's working as normal. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Underneath there's my drives, and it tells me what kind of drives I've got, but it doesn't give me much information about them. There's my memory, 4 gig, DDR3 SD RAM, and if you can connect to that, I know that the DDR3 memory is working properly. It's also telling me it's a Corsair, so yep, that's great. Information about the clocks, and the desktop, and the graphics cards. Excellent. Now, because it's connected to it all, I know that all those bits of hardware are working properly, but now it's not giving me a great deal of information there about the state of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it. I'm going to open it again, and this time I'm going to open it in sensors only mode. So it'll go through all that again, but this time what it'll do is it'll give me much more detailed information. So let's see what I've got. This is what I'm interested in. Is my CPU working properly? Core 0, this is a 2-core CPU, 0.912 volts. Core 1, 0.912 volts, and a maximum of 1.438 volts. Good. That's what I want to see. Clock is working a maximum of 3.9 megahertz and minimum of 1.8 megahertz. Yep, and so it's the second one. That's good. That's what it should be doing. And now zoom in a bit and we can see the usage. There we are. The core usage is maximum 10%. Yes, maximum 10%. Zoom back a bit so we can see everything. Okay. And that's good. That's what we want to see. What that tells us is that this CPU is not working hard, it's not overstressed, and the temperature shouldn't be too great on it. Let's move down to this bit and see what we've got, because here it tells us the temperature. And you can see that the temperature, as we recorded it in the UEFI, has actually gone down. 40.4, 40.1, 54.9 maximum. So it's averaging 41.6 degrees centigrade. That's good. In all cases, it's well under 60 degrees, and that's not going to worry me at all. The motherboard. The motherboard is running at 26 degrees centigrade. now for the drives. The Toshiba is my number one drive. The drive temperature is running at 35 degrees centigrade. There are no drive failures. There are no drive warnings. The second drive is running at 30 degrees centigrade, and again there are no drive failures and no drive warnings, and it's not actually doing anything because it's not being used at the moment. And as you can see, if we go down a bit further, read activity and write activity on the Toshiba, not a great deal, and read activity and write activity on the second drive, the Western Digital, is nothing because we're doing nothing with it. So we can now see the AMD Radeon. Right, the thermal diode is well under there. That's good. The clock's running at slightly under 1 volt. The core is running at slightly under 1 volt. The clock is running at 303.2 megahertz, and the memory clock 800 megahertz. The GPU utilization is swinging to about 17% maximum. And we have 22 megabytes dedicated to it. That's plenty, there's nothing wrong with that, so we're going to have trouble-free computing there. The network's not doing anything at the moment. Let's have a look at the network adapter. Total download 120 megabytes, total up 4, and the download rate very slow, but that's because I'm on a very slow internet connection. The up rate is even more slow due to the same reason. Underneath that I have the Windows hardware error reporting, and we have 0 total errors, which is excellent. There's absolutely nothing on this computer that needs looking at. It's all working very well indeed. So there's no hardware stuff to do. We've done Firefox, we've done Windows, and all we've got to do now is download the new version of this so that we're bang up to the minute. So, let's see how far through that Windows installation is. Come back a bit. %, so we'll let it grind through, and then we'll come back and boot it back up again and make sure nothing's broken. Now, you didn't see me do a backup of the Windows system. It's always a good idea when you're installing updates to Windows to do a backup of the Windows system. I didn't really need to do it because the most recent backup was done last night. So if these 8 updates do break anything, I can always roll back to what I had last night, which was a working system. Now, what I'd intended to do at this point was to put an SD card reader in to improve the machine we've just seen, as I need something that reads SD cards, as I'm constantly swapping them from mobile devices through USB. And that's really not any good. The USB isn't very fast, and I'd rather have an internal reader. However, I bought it from the supplier, and then there came a great downfall of snow, and the supplier couldn't deliver it in time for me to make this film. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to append a film I made some time ago, which shows me replacing 2 gigabytes of RAM for 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, the advantage in this is that 2 gig is not a lot for a machine these days. It's very sub-entry level, and it's what the machine came with. Putting 4 gigabytes of RAM in there to replace the 2 gig stick will double the memory of the machine and make the machine much faster and much more reliable and stable in operation, especially when it's doing complicated software such as Inkscape or Real World Paint. So the film that follows is what I made in July 2017. It's also for BTEC, but it is a rehash of something I did as a BTEC challenge. We're going to need forced shutdown. Yes. We're going to need one of these things. A Field Service Anti-Static Kit. So, let's move the camera a little bit, and you can see the toolkit we're also going to need. And in there you'll find all sorts of things. There's a multimeter, screwdrivers, tweezers, soldering iron, snips, you name it, it's in there. We're not going to need all of that. What we are going to need is a great big screwdriver, because we're going to take the side panels off. So I'm going to point the camera at the tank and let's see what we can do. Now, it's shut down, so the very first thing we need to do is we need to switch it off at the mains. Having done that, we're going to go round the back and we're going to pull the mains plug out. So let's do this. And there's the mains lead. Out she comes. Okay. And there are a number of other leads we're going to pull out as well. We don't want everything out of there. We don't want it to impede our progress in this matter. So, get the camera pointed to it. Let's go around the back and pull out some things. So we've got the VGA cable that comes out. We'll leave it connected to the monitor. And this is the network adapter, so we'll take that out and we'll put it somewhere over here where it's nice and safe and we know where it is. We've got the USB cables for the mouse and the keyboard, and that's it. Our computer is now completely standalone and we can start taking the panels off. And what we need to do is we need to get this big screwdriver and we'll take the panels off like this. There are 4 screws in these panels, so here's number 1. And I always find it's helpful if you're taking screws out to get a tub. Put the screws in there, so that when you come to get them back later, you'll know where they are. And there's number 4. Okay, let's spread our mat. This mat's got an earth point on it. There. Another one on the other side. From the mat. And this is an earth bonding lead. And what I can do with this is I can click it onto the mat, and once I've clicked it onto the mat I can put it somewhere where I know there is an earth bond. And in this case, it's going to be clicked on there we are, to a radiator, which I know has got an earth bond because I can see an earth wire running from it. I'll need to insulate myself as well, and the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to wear an earth strap, an anti-static strap, whatever you like to call it. Before I can do that, I'm going to have to take the side panels off, and come off like this, nice and smoothly from the side, and again nice and smoothly from the side, and we can see the inside of our computer. So, putting on my strap, like that. I'm going to click it to the back end of the computer. Having done that, I'm going to move the computer onto the anti-static mat. Let's shine a light on matters here and see what we've got. Do I need to move the camera around a little bit? I don't think I do. Let's just zoom out a little. Okay, so you can see here, if we look closely enough and find something non-conductive to point with, such as this, what we can see here is a RAM chip. And that's the 2 GB RAM chip, and I am going to take that out. That's the easy job, although it is quite fiddly. To take it out, push up on the catch there, and I gently get the corner and the other corner, exerting minimal force, take out the RAM. And the big thing here is to be careful to touch it only on the edges and not get my fingers on the actual circuit board. And put the old RAM on the anti-static mat, and I'm going to grab the new RAM. Now the new RAM, same thing. DDR3 RAM has a notch, and we can see the notch there. On the slot, let's get a bit more light on the subject. On the slot, we'll see a key that matches the notch, and the trick is to put them in the right way round so that the key and the notch line up. This is where it gets fiddly. So, in we go. I can move the loom a little bit. Put that in there like that, and that in there like that, so that they line up. Now we press on one corner until we hear it click, and then we press on the other corner until we hear it click. And if you're pressing with too much force, something is wrong, and take it out and start again. That looks good. There we go, 2 nice little clicks. I like to go up and down it when I've done it and make sure that I can't see the pins. If I can see the pins, there's something wrong. And I can't see the pins on that one, so I'm going to assume everything's right. Now, we've done the RAM, so we're going to take the old RAM and we're going to put it back in there, and we're going to keep it somewhere nice and safe. It's always good to have a spare stick of RAM around in case something breaks. Now, I don't know where the academic stance is, but one thing we always do in technical is that we run it whenever we've put anything in or taken anything out or made any change whatsoever, especially if it's an electrical one, with the cover off for a few minutes. And that way we can see if there's any pretty blue sparks, magic smoke, or otherwise things that shouldn't be there happening before we put the cover back on. So I'm going to uncouple myself from this thing. I'm going to move it back into its proper position, like this. I'm going to get my keyboard in position, and then I'm going to plug it back into the mains, plug all the keyboard and mouse and everything else back in there, and run it and see what happens. Right then, so everything's plugged back in and we're running with the cover off. Let's switch on. Well, we're looking good so far. It's past its post. And that's a good sign that the RAM is working, so we'll check things. Now, I haven't activated this copy of Windows yet, so that's a very minor concern at the moment. It will work. Let's zoom in on the screen a little bit. So what we need to check is how much RAM we've got. Now you remember when we did this last time, we had 2 gigs of installed physical memory. Let's zoom in so we can see the installed physical memory. And that's saying 4 to me. Are there any blue sparks? Nope. Is there any magic smoke? Nope. And can we smell burning? Nope. Now what I could do with is taking this wiring loom and making it a bit tidier. But it's not going to get in the way of anything at the moment, so I'm going to leave that for another time when I've got a bit more time to do it. There's nothing exposed there, there's nothing going to cause a short circuit, so yeah, it's scruffy, but I'm going to leave it there for a bit, get some cable ties and go round and tie everything up. And really, what we can say now is that the job is entirely done. So just to recapitulate what we've done in this film then, in this film we did some software upgrades, did Firefox from the older version to the newer one, and we put some Windows updates on, some of them security and some of them for other things, missed one out which we didn't want, and found that there wasn't a great deal to do to this machine. We ran the UEFI and checked our voltages and our temperatures of the CPU and the disk drives and found them to be in acceptable limits, and we ran a utility called HWinfo which gave us more information about everything in our hardware configuration. Didn't find a great deal to be done, and so in the second part of the film I used an older film I'd made, which saw me taking a 2GB stick out and putting a 4GB stick in. And the reason for this is that when the computer is doing harder tasks, indeed making films like this, and also graphics work in Inkscape or Real World Paint, it does exhibit a faster response time and a more reliable state than it would do with the old 2GB stick in. It won't run things like Photoshop very well. The latest incarnations really want 8GB, but as we found out from earlier on, this is only a 32-bit machine, and putting 4GB of memory in there is really the maximum we can do without physical address extensions. Putting 8GB in wouldn't do us any good, it just costs us money and we'd see no real benefit. So in conclusion then, I think we can say the job is done. We found nothing wrong with the machine, and in the earlier film that you saw in the second part of this, we upgraded it in terms of the memory.